Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm Regional Vice President for Fusion Alliance, and I'm also our Executive Leader of Strategic Data Management and Analytics. But I'm also the Editorial Board Chair and Visionary Co-Founder of the CDO Magazine. Welcome to our CDAO interview series, and today I have the great privilege and honor of interviewing Ritesh Khire, who is VP of Science at 8451, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Kroger Company. Ritesh, thank you for joining me today on the interview.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me. It's a really an honor to be here.
Well, and I think, I'm thinking about the different algorithms and approaches, things like Monte Carlo simulation and others that factor into the science that, the tools that you have to work with in this scenario. It's just absolutely fascinating. And at the end of the day, I think if you think about Kroger, not even all your other stakeholders, but, Kroger's mission is to meet the customer in the market with the foods that supply and drive life, right, at a price that allows them to consume that product and in an optimized fashion for the execution of the mission, which helps to optimize the price that it can be served at. Right. And so it's a gargantuan problem. I wonder, we have a few more questions I want to get into, but this one, I just want to ask, are you guys looking at, or are you involved in using quantum computing in your analysis scenarios yet? Or is that still a future in terms of the practical application or consumption of quantum?
Yeah, so I'm going to say, we are definitely looking at it, and I want to be careful in AI. Every time we say it's a future, it shows up on our doorstep tomorrow.
Right.
Right. I'm going to be a bit careful. We are looking at, of course, quantum computing. We are looking at more non-traditional optimization. We use traditional optimization, and we of course use mixed integer nonlinear programming solver. We use reinforcement learning. We use multi-amp banded approaches. But that's just what I call the back end of it. There is also a front end. So you mentioned, right? So when we talk about optimization, the question is, what are we optimizing for?
Right.
And in a business, you're not optimizing for one thing. You're optimizing for multiple things. So, there are multi-objective Pareto frontier-based solvers. And then at the end, the decision is made, this technology is there to serve people, right? So there are some decision makers there. Right. So the other element also is what I call the human machine interaction. So we have this huge super smart brain sitting on an electronic chip, right? But then how do we make sure we have there's that facilitate that human machine interaction where a human can do what they are best at, which is provide the strategy, evaluation, and then the machine and the AI is better at crunching the number and then coming up with what we said, that optimal in a quick fashion. And how does that play? So, when we talk about the sciences, there is always there is a data element, the data, let's not forget the data element, the data cleanup and the forecasting model. So if you think about this end to end, that there's a lot of AI that goes from data cleanup, AI, predictive models, forecasting, all the way to optimization, visualization, multi-objective, and the human-machine interface. And that is where we are taking it, where, and that is what I would call the true prescriptive the sciences we are building, and making sure that the plan that we build, they are relevant to different areas. They are relevant to the different customers. At the same time, they are executable, through the mechanism we have. So there is a lot that goes in making this possible. And I'm proud to say we are making it possible, actually. That's really, fascinating here to see making this possible.
Well, it is fascinating. I think you used the right word. And, I think the pandemic taught, I know Kroger, so much in terms of customer demand, pivots and vectors, the business model for all retailers, but certainly in the grocery retail space, you guys had an interesting phenomenon happen, and I guess maybe it would have been expected, and that is that as people became, restricted to living in their homes, all of their food consumption became food consumption that happened in their home. So meal preparation and grocery staples and all kinds of other product demand just spiked through the roof, and figuring out how to optimize pricing and how to serve those customers and how to make sure the supply was there and how to do it on a delivery basis, just put fantastic demand on these algorithms that could optimize the decision making in the human machine interface to serve the customer better.
Yeah, and I think the way you characterize it, right, I want to make sure at least capture one point. Optimization would be so much easier if there were no constraints. But we don't live in a world where we don't have constraints. There are constraints on resources. There are constraints on the labor we have. There are resources and on the budgets we have for the price and promotion. And so I think that also brings the next layer into this entire decision making. And you start to see why this journey that I talked about, all the way from the descriptive, let's look at what happened, to let's prescribe how can we make it happen. It sort of becomes fascinating because we can now layer in all these and then make the decision that is the best decision. We call it optimal, but essentially the best decision from all facets that we are looking at. Mm-hmm. And we have been this journey. We started this about 5-6 years ago, maybe even before, but I joined 5-6 years ago. And it is fascinating to see that, injecting these sciences, running tests, starting small, getting a quick win, getting people on board, really making sure we have the right buy-in, right? I mean, you can see, people are, for rightfully so, a bit skeptical when a number comes out and say, what is your answer? 42. It's a little joke there with Hitchhiker's Guide there, but you can imagine, that getting that buy-in, and it's a journey, and we are on that journey. And what I'm happy to sort of report here is that through this journey, we have shown that it is possible. If I were to sort of give a glimpse of some of the testing we have been doing, what we are seeing is there is always this question on, is it possible to be financially healthy while at the same time serve the customer? Our results show yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
We consistently show we can reach as more customers, and they're, while doing the right thing. And I think that is really, sorry to sound repetitive, but exciting.
Ritesh, thank you so much for the time that you spent with us today in this interview. I hope you'll come back again.
Absolutely, Mark. And I really enjoyed this conversation. So tell me when, and we'll talk.
You'll be there. Great. Well, I'm going to hold you to that, and I know that Nikki will help me there. For our viewers, if you'd like to view other great interviews similar to this, please go to cdomagazine.tech, where you'll find them, along with other white papers that are being published. And again, our objective with this interview series and with everything that we publish on the site is to help educate the non-technical C-suite executive to really understand the promise, the value, and the sheer necessity of embracing and supporting the change management. I think you mentioned this, the human change management journey, and the investments that are necessary to make the maximum return and impact on these approaches, data analytics, and the technology that goes along with it. So thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed the interview.
Thank you.